Morning, friends. Ash here, WAT News, with some updates and just some stuff off the top of my head that I've been thinking about with the whole big story we're dealing with, right? Today's December the 20th, 2020, 12/20/20. Clear vision now, right? Everyone should have much clearer vision now than they had maybe even in January of this year, right? You're starting to see more of the story come out, right? And so what you're starting to also see is that people are coming and going out of the story, right? And just like a chess game where different pieces are in different places, sometimes a piece is there and then it's taken and it's all of a sudden the whole game changes, right? Your queen gets taken, your rook gets taken, a major piece that's very valuable to you at the time. You might only have one rook left. Well, you lose that rook and now the whole game changes, right? The scope of what you can do is limited now. If I only have a rook, one rook, and I lose it, and I don't have a bishop either, I have a big problem. And my queen's gone, I got a big problem, right? So as you lose pieces, you're on the board. The things that you can do become limited, and as the other side gains more control over your pieces and the board, they become more powerful, right? And so I'm starting to see the tides turning. I don't know what happened with the deep state. Maybe one of their rooks got taken or a big piece got knocked off the board, but a couple pieces did. So you look at Esper, you look at a guy like that, he's like, maybe he's a pawn or a knight. Maybe he's a knight, I don't know. But he's a piece off the board, right? Krebs was a piece, a pawn off the board. And then Trump puts in his piece into that place that is going to work for him instead of the other side. So this dig is going to be some news first, and then I'm going to dig Justice Roberts a little bit, because I've always suspected that Justice Roberts, long time, is the deep state pawn. And the scuttlebutt that I had heard after 9/11 and the years following that came out, when a lot more information started to come out about the backstory of 9/11, because there was a bunch of different stories that we were given, and the real story, I think, was that it's a multiple story, right? There's multiple reasons why people wanted the towers down. One was that a lot of people don't realize is that the towers, when they were built with asbestos. And what happened is later in the city, for some reason, they changed the law at some point after the towers were built. And there was a new law that came in that said if there's asbestos in your building, it must be removed, because, tests had come out, right, that asbestos could cause cancer and stuff like that, right? So, well, now the people that own the towers have a problem, because it's sometime in the 80s maybe, or late 70s, and guess what? That building's not full. It's not leased out fully. It's not making as much money as they thought it was going to make, because to make a lot of money on a big building like that, you need it fully leased, right? You need every floor leased out with long-term rent contracts, or at least leased out for a year, right? And usually those contracts will go longer. So that's one problem they had. How am I going to... I don't have the money, right? I just put this thing up and it's not filling out the way I thought, and now I got to pull all the asbestos out. I might even have to pull the whole building down. And that's a huge cost, right? So that's one. Two, there were documents inside the World Trade Center, paper documents, or documents on some kind of older computer files maybe, or computers that had to do with George W. Bush. That's what I had read, and investigations into him. So that was the second reason why somebody didn't want that building to stay up, because the documents that were either on paper, and I think some of them were on paper, and some of them were maybe in computers, those needed to be destroyed, and they were. And three, there was a whole lot of gold and silver, mostly a big bread loaf silvers bars down in the basement of one of the towers. Or was it Building 7? I know there was a lot of stuff in Building 7 as well. So, okay, put that to the side for a second. And you can go dig that all day if you want to. I already dug it for years. I know the Bushes had a good reason for that building to come down. And of course, Silverstein, takes out that insurance like 6-7 weeks before it happens, right? And he gets paid off in a huge multi-billion-dollar thing where he gets $1 billion, all this insurance for each tower. And then, of course, we needed the Patriot Act to go through. We needed to be in Afghanistan so they could start cultivating all the poppy again, right? And have full control over that. And so I always felt that Roberts was a controlled mechanism. Now, if we go back to 9/11, the day before, people remember that Rumsfeld comes out with that statement that, hey, we can't, the Pentagon can't account for $1.2 trillion. We don't know where it went. We lost it. Well, you didn't lose it. You put it into black bag projects and you stole it and you use it for whatever nefarious crap you've been doing underground and all and with SSP and that stuff, right? We know that now. We know you've been using that money for years to build all these dumbs that are now all over the earth. Now, the question is why'd they do that, right? Well, what's the point? Was it for military? Was it for... No, it was for these off-planet groups to do experiments on human beings, adrenochrome production, super soldier projects, MK Ultra, and whatever else they're doing, right? Hybridization projects, where they're trying to splice together animals and humans to make a super soldier. Like put it like a leopard in a human, so you got better eyesight. All this crazy stuff. So, you know, when that stuff all starts to come out, people are gonna like lose their mind because they won't be able to believe it. It'll be like some kind of like continuation of Mengele, you know. And that's what people don't seem to realize. Like before the Germans were doing this, who do you think was doing it? It was the Japanese. They had some of the most sadistic, and the Chinese too, programs that you've ever heard of that experimented on human beings. So, you know, this is going on way before people realize it was, I think. And so put that all to the side. I always thought Roberts was a controlled asset. And the rumor was, and this was the scuttlebutt that came out later, was that it was really Roberts that, after 9/11, which was made so that Nassara also wouldn't go through, because Nassara was about to go through that day. That was the rumor that everybody heard, that some people were saying later. Nassara was about to trigger on 9/11/2001. Once it triggered in the banking computers that were inside the Trade Center, it would start filling out and going out, right? In other words, once that starts, you can't stop it. The money will start to go out into everybody's accounts, however it's going to be distributed, and the system would change and flip over. And they didn't want that. And so another rumor that I heard was that those computers needed to be destroyed that were in the trade centers so that Nassara wouldn't click in. That sounds right to me. So it's like a multiple, you know, it was a multiple thing, right? It was a multiple opportunity false flag. It helped a lot of people make money, right? And then you heard about people who were shorting like American Airlines stock the night before and stuff like that. So somebody made a huge amount of money who knew it was coming in the stock market too. And you think that was just one person? Probably not, right? That was a lot of people that were in the know. Whoever was in the know could have made a lot of money that if you started playing stock options a couple days before, right? We also heard about certain people that didn't show up to work that day, right? How come you didn't come in that day? That's odd. You didn't know something. Maybe you knew something was going on. We don't know, right? So, sorry to get into all that backstory on 9/11. Let's check the news. Trump releases this Fight for Trump video. I watched it. It's a pretty good piece of, you know, it's not really propaganda, but it's just something to get people like amped up about one side, right? Nothing wrong with that. Something's brewing. Dan Scavino posts series of tweets after raucous Oval Office meeting. Trump's ready to take action. Something's coming. This caught my eye. This article, Liberals Beware, Patriots are just getting started. Lin Wood. Attorney Lin Wood calls on President Trump to impose martial law in 7 states, confiscate Dominion machines. And you notice, I saw an article yesterday where Milley came out in a public statement saying that the Army, there is no role, he said, no role for the Army in any kind of election thing like this. There's not going to be basically any martial law that will be dealt with by the Army. So you're starting to see the players come out and take their sides. Now, if you remember back on the boards, I remember this being spoken about, bringing up the United States Marine Corps, USMC. Those guys are the ones that Trump's going to be using, because those guys, really, their loyalty is to the president and to the country exclusively, right? There's a different code there. Not sure what it is, but it's something about the United States Marine Corps is the oldest, I believe, of all the armed forces. I believe it's the oldest, or one of them, or was the Navy first. But there's something special about the United States Marine Corps and the president. There's a certain bond there. And so I think you're seeing that the Army is somewhat compromised. Maybe some of these generals are on the other side of the coin, right? And they're starting to come out publicly and say, hey, listen, we're not going to be, which is, I don't know how you come out and tell the president what you're not going to do, right? I would immediately terminate anybody that did that. And I don't think Milley's in. I think he's retired now, maybe, or I'm not sure if he's still serving. I would terminate him expeditiously. That's just my opinion. So we'll see what Trump does, right? Do you think, we don't know, is he going to impose martial law in these states? Is it that the governors are failing to do their jobs, right? In a sense, I mean, if your state there appears to be an issue with the votes in your state, then you have a duty as the governor of that state to do your due diligence and count all the votes again and make sure and signature match them and make sure that they're correct. But of course, Kemp doesn't want to do that. And we see plenty of pictures of Kemp with China. We've seen Kemp take over 100 million, I think the state got from somebody to get the machines in there, right? So they got money. This is by Jim Hoff. General Flynn also joined Sidney Powell on Friday. Deploying the U.S. military was reportedly raised in the meeting, but nixed. President Trump is in a huge bind. Americans know the election was stolen from him, and those who don't only have to look at the facts and the numbers to change their minds. But President Trump must take decisive action to expose this historic fraud. Time's running out before the scheduled inauguration. President Trump must take bold action to save the country from the Marxist threat. He must act. On Saturday night, Attorney Lin Wood tweeted out to President Trump, "Patriots are praying tonight that Donald Trump will impose martial law in disputed states, seize voting machines for forensic examination, and appoint Sidney Powell as special counsel to investigate election fraud. Our country must learn truth of 2020 election. President Trump must act, and President Trump must act soon. Patriots are praying tonight." Okay, so that's, we'll have to see what's going on, right? There's plenty of perjury revealed by the allegations in my complaint. Many will soon learn about the penalty of perjury. I will not be one of them. I speak truth. I am fearless. Lin Wood. Carlos E. Silva is a truth giver. Okay, so we'll see how this plays out, guys. Is Trump going to seize the machines? Because the issue really seems to be if a state is not doing its due diligence, and it's now evidence has come out, like in Georgia, you saw where they were moving the machines around and doing stuff to them and maybe destroying evidence, right? That's illegal. If you were told not to touch the machines and then you start moving them around. Little New York news. Struggling New York City restaurant owners ban Cuomo from establishments. Yeah, you're persona non grata down here, basically, right now. Don't come down south into New York City anymore and expect to get a nice meal and a smile over here, right? It's funny, right? Because if you remember, Cuomo was saying Trump can't walk the street here, right? He shouldn't come back to New York. He won't be able to walk down the street here. Well, it's starting to look like, actually, that Cuomo can't walk down the street here. He wouldn't have a good welcome if he walked into a restaurant down here right now. I can tell you that. And here's the kicker. When they did New York has this whole contact tracing thing, which we never can see the results of. So after weeks of the news harassing these guys, hey, where's your data? You're not putting the contact tracing data up. We can't see the data you're using. And that's the whole point, right? If I don't show you the data, then you don't know what the data is and what's going on, right? You don't know how many people are really sick. You don't know how many are cases. You don't know how many are flu. So they can manipulate, they can manipulate the numbers any way they want. And that's what they've been doing. That's my opinion. So, don't come down to New York City. What's going on with Supreme Court Justice John Roberts? Even Soros cheered Roberts at Davos. December 19, 2020 by Joe Hoft. So, John Roberts has always been considered like he was appointed by Bush, but he doesn't always vote like as a conservative justice does. In fact, he sides a lot with the Democrats on the other side, and there's been a lot of talk about him. These past few weeks, the dysfunction of the Supreme Court has come to a head. The court, led by Chief John Roberts, has removed itself from getting involved in the 2020 election. Something's not right. Yeah, I mean, you were all ready to get involved in 2000, though, right? And people, a guy came forward and made a statement that people had heard screaming coming out of the room when the justices were debating over the Texas case. And the allegation is that Roberts was overheard screaming, "I don't care about this case. I'm not gonna, we didn't have riots in 2000." Was his argument, apparently, allegedly. So if that's true, is he the one holding this all back, and the other justices were maybe going to vote for it? We don't know. Excuse me. The manner in which Chief Justice Roberts runs the Supreme Court is a travesty. It is corrupt. He doesn't uphold the rule of law. He breaks it. A week ago, the Supreme Court threw out the Texas case, which more than 20 states joined in support. This was the first case on the 2020 election based on its merits. It was shocking that the three new Trump judges would not vote to hear the case. This decision had led legal legend Lin Wood to share the following tweet. "Do people have list of questions for C.J. Roberts based on bizarre votes on major cases starting with Obamacare, but let's ask him just two. Are you the John Roberts on Epstein flight logs? I heard that he's not. I heard that John Roberts is actually the John Roberts from Channel 5 News. The older dude. So we'll have to see if he was actually on the... But I also heard another allegation that he may have also been on the gone there on his own private plane. So there he wouldn't be on the logs, but that yes, he was there. So we'll have to see if he was there or not. Do they have pictures of that? Do they have something that definitely puts him there? Because if they do, then he's going to be stepping down. And I remember that, I think I remember hearing that in some of the Clement, and I'll have to go back and try to find it, but he does bring up that one of the justices will be, that something will come out about, like uncomfortable information, that kind of stuff. So, if it's going to come out on any justice, if that's the allegation, I would say it would probably be for Justice Roberts here, for sure. He seems like one of the most compromised to me. I mean, the ones who are on the Democrat side, you know how they're going to vote. I'm not saying they're compromised, but I definitely think somebody got to this person at some point. And we're going to get into that in a second. So, are you the John Roberts on Epstein flight logs? Did you say at real Donald Trump the mother effer would never be reelected? That's going to be interesting if that comes out, right? Because it's alleged that he, in a phone call with Justice Breyer, was that's what he said. Now, do they have that phone call? Maybe. The NSA should. Question is it going to come out? Wood also tweeted about suspicions of Roberts' adoption in Ireland. What's this? U.S. Chief Justice Roberts is corrupt. What adoption? I didn't hear he ever adopted anybody. Let's see if that'll come up, or did they spike that? Did that link get spiked? Let's see. Nope, still here. Dr. Dawn Michael, breaking: Roberts, who reportedly was investigated at one time for illegally adopting his children, betrayed the Republican base when he confirmed the supposed constitutionality of Obamacare during Obama's re-election campaign. John Roberts accused on tape of getting hacked by Brennan and Clapper. With Vice President Mike Pence calling Supreme Court Justice Chief Roberts a disappointment for conservatives, Roberts faced widespread... So did Clapper and Brennan, that was the other allegation, right? That in Obama's second, or maybe even first term, but second for sure, the allegation was that Obama wasn't just surveilling certain press people, which came out like Fox, but that he was also surveilling people like Justice Scalia and many, many other people through some kind of program, right? Whatever some spy program that the CIA had. And That allegation was never proven, but it never was really investigated either. So, were they listening in on Roberts? Were they listening in on certain people to see how they were going to vote, like powerful people? Were they listening in on Scalia? We don't know that yet. But if they were listening in on Roberts and Scalia, that's a problem, isn't it? Because now you have two judges that you're surveilling, as well as maybe some certain political foes of yours who you don't like. The allegation also was that not only was Trump being watched, but that also Cruz was being watched, Ted Cruz. So we'll have to start seeing. Now, the other thing I was thinking about in the Kim Clement stuff is that he says another Snowden comes. That's coming right now, right? That's Assange. So there's all this stuff in the mix now, right? Where's Assange? Is he going to come out into the open? That leads us into the Seth Rich stuff. And when I deep dug Seth Rich, the reports that I had seen said that he was at the hospital, his wounds were packed and non-life threatening. Then what I read was that Rich was moved to some other floor, and a lot of cops started to show up in that area, sealed that floor off, and then that's all we know. Next thing you heard, Seth Rich was dead. So how'd you die if all your wounds were packed and the report was non-life threatening? Most people, if you get shot like that and it's not in a serious place, right, and they pack your wounds out like that, and you're young and you're not hit in like an artery or a major, something major, you're probably going to recover, because I don't know what kind of gun he got shot with, the 9mm or a smaller caliber, but that was what I had read, that his wounds were packed and he was expected to fully recover, or at least to recover. He wasn't in immediate danger in terms of the gunshot wounds. So how did he die, right? So we'll have to kind of dig into more of this stuff, right? National File, John Roberts accused on tape of getting hacked by Brennan and Clapper adoption scandal. So now we got this other thing. Did he adopt these children correctly? Or, why would you go through all that to adopt somebody and then do it wrong? So we'll have to see how that plays out. With Vice President Mike Pence calling Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts a disappointment for conservatives, Roberts faces widespread scrutiny over the possibility that he is compromised. I reported in 2018. Obama administration and intelligence officials John Brennan and James Clapper must answer to the allegations that they blackmailed Supreme Court Justice John Roberts to get his vote for Obamacare in 2012. Okay, so that's the allegation. They needed his vote. He wasn't maybe going to vote that way. They wanted to put Obamacare through, which you remember had the illegal mandate that you had to get the insurance, right? By the way, I had to pay that $99 3 times. 3 times I had to pay it to get out of it. I sent them, I did it online the first time and it didn't go through, but it took my money. The third time I sent them a check. And in the bottom of the check I said, this is the last time I'm sending you $99. So either cash this or something to that effect. So so anyway, evidence shows that John Roberts, Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, was hacked by deep state surveillance operation overseen by Obama administration CIA Director John Brennan and Obama Director of DNI James Clapper. Roberts, the Bush appointee, was allegedly the victim of the same deep state surveillance program that spied on President Donald Trump. Tapes released by federal judge G. Murray Snow, preserved on a whistleblower SoundCloud page managed by citizen journalist Mary Fanning, show real estate billionaire Timothy Blixseth explaining Brennan and Clapper's surveillance program to Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Detective Mike Zullo. Now, that would explain why they went after Joe so bad, right? Remember when they went after Arpaio so hard? The existence of this surveillance program has been corroborated by WikiLeaks Vault 7 release and by the public comments of former CIA and NSA contractor Dennis Montgomery, who says he worked on the program for Brennan and Clapper. I'm going to have to dig this whole thing now. This is interesting. I don't remember this. Montgomery has gone public with his claims, exposing how the program was used to spy on President Donald Trump when he was a private citizen. You remember when the what was that gentleman's name who went to the surprise visit to Trump, and he told him, "You're being surveilled. Your building's being bugged right now. You need to." And he moved. That was why he knew he was being surveilled at that point, illegally. On the explosive tapes, Blixeth walks Arpaio and Zullo through the details of the program on a computer screen. At one point, the three begin pulling up specific names of targeted individuals. You know who that guy is? That's the head of the FISA court. They hacked into Reggie Walton, Blixeth tells the investigators. Ah, wait a minute. Huh. Remember when all the FISA things were just so easily signed off on? Well, what if they had compromat on that guy? And that's how it got so easily signed off. That would make logical sense, because I was wondering, how did they get these FISAs to go through? I mean, you're talking about, you got to have a serious amount of information on someone to do something like that during an election. And you're trying to spy on either someone in the president's orbit or him himself. You better have a tall order. You better have a lot of credible documents to prove that story first. So what if they were watching this guy, or they hacked his computer and they found whatever they found on him and blackmail, and they used it? That makes sense to me. John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was hacked, Blixeth tells Arpaio and Zullo. So this is the tape, 18-minute mark. Let's see if we could find it. I want to hear this. So I'll leave the link, and you could listen to the full video if you want. Part 2, Blixeth says they tried to destroy CIA contractor Montgomery, then hired him back.
That means when the feds try to indict him, which they will, yes, I gotta say, the defense says, hey, I got immunity in Arizona, and that evidence would have never come out if I had the
18-minute mark. Hang on, guys.
There's got to be a way to search this, right?
It looks like it's a Word file.
It's in PDF. You know what that guy is?
PDF?
PDF. You know what that guy is? That's the head of the FISA court they hacked into. Reggie Walton. He's the head of the FISA court. And John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was hacked. So how do we, can you know the laptop was here? Mm-hmm. Can you enable that?
Do we have a regular computer to the tower?
We don't want to put,
You don't want to put them up here.
Yeah, I can't enable
This is
the
often
keyboards because I had to delete the drivers.
He did say it was him. He said it was Roberts, and he said...
Get back to,
Just look at that way.
okay, so, let's see, part 2. So, keeping on with the idea. You got all these victims in this county. But you got a new Brennan.
Well, it's kind of hard to hear. I'll leave the link there, guys. You could check it out. I did hear him say what he had said before, so I'll leave it there. Interesting stuff coming out, right? A lot of documents and interesting info. So I was checking into Brennan. I was checking into Justice Roberts. And fact-checked his photo show Chief Justice John Roberts on Jeff Epstein's private island. On Thursday, Donald Trump and QAnon supporting attorney Lin Wood posted a series of tweets attacking Chief Justice John Roberts in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision to throw out yet another bid to overturn the election results. Among some of the tweets posted by Wood, who has an abbreviation of the Q slogan, where we go one, we go all, in his Twitter bio, they wrote where he go one. Included an unsubstantiated claim that Roberts had a phone call last year with Justice Stephen Breyer suggesting he would make sure Trump lost the election. Wood also repeated suggestions that Roberts has links to Jeffrey Epstein Island, Jeffrey Epstein, who died by suicide in his jail cell. So they better hope that Roberts better hope that that phone call doesn't exist and he never said that, because if it does and it comes out, then he's got a major problem, right? That would be a huge revelation that could cause him to step down. The claim, Wood, who is attempting to prove Trump's disputed claims of widespread election fraud, along with fellow Q supporting attorney Sidney Powell. How do they know they're Q supporters? Brought up previous allegations against Roberts that he flew on Epstein's private jet and is associated with the billionaire child sex offender. The claim surrounds John Roberts, which appears in the court-released documents containing flight logs for Epstein's private jet. What about John Roberts from Fox? Check him out. I have long had questions about the John Roberts on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet flight logs. I suspected it was our Chief Justice. MSM mainstream media has shown no interest in investigating the issue to find the truth, Wood tweeted to his 819,000 followers. Wood then demanded that Roberts answer whether it's him. We the people are entitled to answers. You work for us. Justice Roberts, answer these questions. They will not go away. You cannot fly truth away on Epstein jet. In response, several Twitter users posted a photograph which they claimed to be showing Roberts and former President Bill Clinton and others swimming in the sea just off. Oh, that's this right. Just off Epstein's private island. That's the famous picture that Q posted, right? Let's see. Let's get that picture up. I believe that's the correct one. Let's see if it's the one I remember that being posted. There he is right there, right? And this was the famous picture, and I forgot who the other guys are in this. They identified everybody in this picture already. So I'll have to see, was this Roberts? Was he there with them in that picture? And that's, because I've also seen the picture without him in it for some reason. So, and then they were saying who took this photo. We're not sure, right? Was it that girl who they were talking about? What's her name with the modeling agency? We never heard about her again, right? The one that was allegedly selling the kids and stuff, like putting the kids' photos up all over, and all these kids looked like emaciated and weird, and she had a modeling agency. I remember that. I'll have to see if her name comes back into the picture at some point. But is this Roberts, right? Is this Roberts? And from his profile and the time period, it looks a lot like him. It does look like him to me. But we'll have to see, right? Somebody wrote here that that's Chelsea Clinton's husband. What's his name? Yeah, he does. Could be him too, right? We're not sure if that's him. That's the problem. It's not. The photo isn't full on his face. To see how that all plays out. Is that Roberts or is this maybe Chelsea Clinton's husband, right? Not sure. Is it Roberts though? We'll see. Can't confirm right now. Q did post this though, and he knows more than we know. So I'll have to see if that's him or not. Now, getting back to Roberts for a second. Roberts makes a trip to Malta in sometime, it looks like in the summer, July of 2012. Okay. After joking about heading to Malta to escape criticism, Chief Justice Roberts heads to Malta as it emerges that he may have written for and against opinions on Obamacare. Chief Justice John Roberts fled the country on Tuesday, opting to take up temporary residence in an impregnable island fortress. Was it to avoid constant questioning over the Supreme Court's controversial ruling on health care reform? To get out of the glare of Republican ire after siding with the court's liberal judges and deeming the law constitutional? He waved such explanations off, saying instead that he was traveling to Malta to teach a 2-week class at the Mediterranean Islands University. Really? That seems weird. Why would you do that for? You're a Supreme Court Justice of the United States. You shouldn't be traveling to a foreign country like that. And you're visiting the Knights of Malta? That's the Knights of Malta symbol. So, the Knights of Malta is an old organization that some have claimed is, part of the mechanism, right? This is the Knights of Malta, Sovereign Order of Malta. I just heard that the Pope had done something to I think the Pope asks, Knight of Malta leader to step down or something. I thought he had made somebody step down from the Knights of Malta. Why did Pope Francis sack the Grand Master? Yeah, here it is. Hang on. Why did Pope Francis sack the Grand Master of the Knights of Malta? So, something was going on with the Knights of Malta more recently where the Pope Francis went in there and he took out the head leader. Dispute over condoms resulted in papal investigation. Pope Francis has exercised his papal authority and sacked the head of the Knights of Malta following a controversy within the ancient chivalric organization. In dismissing the leader, Pope Francis has made a rare use of power as the absolute monarch of Vatican City and the leader of the church. So the question is, because the Pope's power has basically been removed, as far as I could see. And so was he ordered to do this by, Trump's people or the powers that be, whatever. And that was one of the moves to take this guy out. Let's see if this is a long video or it's not too long. Matthew Festing agreed to quit. Okay, so some moves are being made, it looks like, inside the Knights in the, we're not sure about the backstory yet. We'll have to see, right? So Roberts goes to Malta. He teaches this 2-week course. We don't know what he does there or who he speaks with or what he's told. Is he given instructions on what to do and how to vote and all these things? We don't know that yet, right? But it's a suspicious trip for sure. And a lot of people are looking at him and wondering what he's doing there. I started to look into his wife, whose name is Jane Sullivan Roberts. Can't find too much about her, just that she works at a prestigious law firm. They were married July 28th, 1996. He was appointed by Bush. This is Jane Sullivan Roberts, longtime wife, Buffalo, New York native. Now, I read on a site that they're claiming, somebody was claiming, alleging, that she's a Jesuit, which would explain why her husband is now going to the Knights of Malta. And what's also kind of interesting is his background. In '79, Roberts graduated law school magna cum laude, which is impressive. Upon graduation, Roberts clerked for Judge Henry Friendly for a year before clerking for Supreme Court Justice William Rehnquist in 1980. As an attorney for the government and in private practice, he argued in 39 cases before the Supreme Court and won 25 of them. After a 2-year period in the private sector as an associate at Hogan and Hartson, Roberts was appointed Principal Deputy Solicitor General by George Bush. That's a huge jump. I mean, this guy's like just a regular dude, right? And then all of a sudden, why'd you pick this guy, right? President Bush nominated Roberts as a judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals in 2003. In 2005, Bush originally nominated Roberts to fill the seat left by Sandra Day O'Connor when she announced her plans to retire. But after Chief Justice Rehnquist died, Bush withdrew his nomination in order to nominate him to Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. He's been happily married to lawyer wife Jane Sullivan since '96. The two are the proud parents of 2 children, Josephine and Jack. Knights of Malta, an overthrow of America. There's all kinds of rumors about Knights of Malta. I don't think this organization is a good thing. I think this organization is part of the mechanism of control. Pretty sure of it. So this was where it said, this is Patriots for Truth. Jane Sullivan is a Jesuit. That would explain John Roberts sneaking off to a Knights of Malta hideaway. That's where I found the Daily Mail article. Anything else? Chief Justice's wife, Jane Roberts Sullivan, juggles law, children. Oh, here was the thing that... this allegation was interesting. Remember, Chief Crown Prosecutor Alison Saunders sneaked to America and had a private dinner at Bruce and Nellie Orr's home. Bruce Orr, one of the senior executive services Crown agents, paymasters at the DOJ, just 5 days before the infamous Trump Tower meeting. This is super interesting because I never heard that allegation, but we just heard that Bruce Orr and Nellie Orr obviously were part of this thing, right? And they were investigated in the... they were looked into, you know, in the whole Trump fake... sorry, I can't think straight today, guys. When they tried to impeach Trump, it came out that Orr and the husband, right, were having meetings with certain people and doing stuff they weren't supposed to be doing. And so we'll have to see, right, is because the allegation was, is Nellie Orr CIA? And maybe she is, right? She did speak Russian, I believe, had certain language skills. Also, she was also, I believe, into those old radios, right? Which is a way that some people might pass communication, like a lo-fi way of passing comms, right? So I'll have to see how this all plays out. You know, I can't prove that any of these allegations. These are just allegations for now. But, you know, with these people down with the Jesuits, it's starting to appear they could be. Got to keep an eye on it. This was... Chief Justice's wife juggles law, 2 children. This was from the Telegram. So I've been pretty sure that Roberts is a compromised asset for a long time, and we'll have to see if he's going to be forced out. Is some information going to come out about him? Does the Breyer call come out? Does some other information come out on Roberts? But as you can see, he's done some questionable decisions in the past. He's gone to the Knights of Malta in the past. And the question is now becoming, is some of our people on the Supreme Court possibly compromised, right? It's starting to appear that an argument could be made maybe for that, right? And that's why it's very suspicious when a Supreme Court justice travels to certain foreign countries like this and goes and stays for 2 weeks at the Knights of Malta, right? Or with somebody like that. So with that, guys, I'll wrap this up. Oh, one other thing about the chemtrailing. Yeah, we're getting hit hard here in New York, but I noticed, and Gene had also spoke about this, that there's like 2 kinds that they're using now. They actually shut down the chemtrail program, the airport where it's being run out of, at least in the United States, Gene said. But what they're starting to do, and I've heard several different things. Gene said one time that they were using, actually spraying hydroxychloroquine all over the country in chemtrails just to get people better, you know, and so it wouldn't get worse or whatever. That would have been an ingenious thing to do. And I don't know if that's true, but it could be. And the second thing I had heard was that there's 2 kinds of chemtrails now, right? The one that's the traditional one that just spreads out in the back of the planes and sits in the sky and then spreads out. But there's this other one that sort of looks more like a wispy, and it spreads out even more, and it looks like a little, like long strings. That's the good chemtrail, apparently, that connects to the bad one and destroys it. And I've seen them doing that in New York over and over again, where there's the straight line one that starts to spread out slower, and then this other wispy kind of one is like sort of sprayed in the sky that connects to it. So hopefully in the next year or 2, or even sooner, we hope that program will completely stop. But I also heard that some of the chemtrails are like bad for like the hybridized beings and bad for the Draco and stuff. So let's hope that that's true too, that they can put stuff in there that's like killing them. Anyway, so I'll leave you guys there. Tomorrow is going to be the 21st, and I'm probably just going to stay off that day and relax, you know, and see what happens, how we feel and everything. And if any news breaks, I'll try to get on. And if anything big happens with the Flash or whatever happens, we're not sure, right? But we're just going to play it by ear and stay in our center and be at peace, right? We can watch all these events happen without judgment, right? We can just observe. So with that, friends, I wish you peace and love. See how it plays out with Robert. See how it plays out with all these chess pieces on the boards. A lot of moving pieces, right? So with that, friends, wish you peace and love. This is Ash signing off for now.